On Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, many people, both here in the United States and around the world, open presents, right? We talked about it with the kids a few moments ago. And opening presents is typically a fun time, right? You get a gift that's been wrapped, that someone put a lot of thought into, and you unwrap it to find out what's inside. Now, if it's something that you asked for, something that was on your Christmas list, like we talked about a few moments ago, you're probably really excited. You might even say something like, "It's what I've always wanted." My brother said that every year about every present he got, even if he didn't actually want it. It was kind of funny when he was growing up. Maybe you'd say something like, it's exactly what I needed. But, again, as we talked about, sometimes you receive gifts you didn't ask for. Are you going to like those gifts? Maybe. Maybe not, right? Time will tell. Sometimes you receive gifts you didn't ask for, but there are times when that gift you didn't ask for ends up being the gift you always needed. In the Old Testament, after the time of King David and King Solomon, the nation of Israel split into two separate nations. You had the northern kingdom of Israel and you had the southern kingdom of Judah. Now, during the southern kingdom of Judah's history, there was a king named Ahaz. He was a descendant of King David. Ahaz was not a good king. He was a political and spiritual train wreck. Ahaz offered his sons as human sacrifices. He took on the idolatrous ways of other nations, and he literally set up an idol altar on every street corner in Jerusalem. Ahaz was not a good king. And at some point during his reign, the northern kingdom of Israel, remember he's reigning in the south in Judah, the northern kingdom of Israel had allied itself with another foreign nation to fight the powerful Assyrian army. Now Ahaz in the southern kingdom of Judah chose not to join that alliance. And the northern kingdom of Israel did not like that. And so what they did was they attacked the southern kingdom of Judah and Ahaz. Now Judah, the people of Judah and Ahaz, they were afraid. Even though he was the king, even though he should have known what to do, Ahaz didn't know what to do and he didn't know who to turn to for help. And even though he was horrible, God in his grace sent the prophet Isaiah to King Ahaz. You can read about that in the book of Kings and in the book of Chronicles. And just before our verses from Isaiah chapter 7 that records part of this account, God speaks to Ahaz. And he tells Ahaz that the enemies of Judah are like smoldering snubs. That's literally what he calls them. And if something's smoldering, that means it's going to go out pretty soon, right? It's not going to last. That's how God describes their enemies. They're not going to last. They will be defeated. Judah is going to be safe this time. And then God warned Ahaz, if you don't believe this, you too will be destroyed. You are also going to fall. And then, in our verses for today, God gives Ahaz a gift he did not ask for. Isaiah chapter 7, if you want to follow along, we're going to go through the verses two at a time, one at a time, on page 7 of your worship folders. So again, and remind you, this is the second time God is speaking to Ahaz. So again, the Lord spoke to Ahaz. Ask the Lord your God for a sign, whether in the deepest depths or in the highest heights. So even though Ahaz was just a train wreck, God in his grace told Ahaz, I want to prove to you that what my word will come true, that Judah's going to be safe this time, that you're going to be okay. that your enemies will be defeated. I want to prove it to you. And so I want you to ask for a sign. I want you to ask for anything. It could be really crazy or really common. Whatever you ask, I will give it to you to prove to you that what I say is true. This would be like if you took a child to a toy store and you said, pick anything you want and I'll buy it for you as a gift. That's what God is doing here. He's letting Ahaz determine how he's going to know that God is speaking the truth. I mean, think about that. The God who literally said, let there be, and everything was created. The God who brought his people out of Egypt, parted the Red Sea, and then destroyed the powerful Egyptian army. The God who fed his people for 40 years in the desert where there's no food. The God who caused the sun to stand still is literally telling Ahaz, ask for whatever you want. I will make it happen. And if Ahaz had any knowledge of the history of God's people, and you can be sure he did because he was the king, he would have known. He could literally ask for anything, and God would have given it to him. Now you'd think, in his desperate and worrisome state, Ahaz would have taken God up on this, right? I mean, who wouldn't? When you're going through a problem, it would be a lot easier to go through that problem if you had a guarantee somehow that tomorrow when you woke up, that problem would be gone. Right? It would be a lot easier to go through that day, knowing this is almost done. Who wouldn't take God up on that, right? Verse 12. But Ahaz said, I will not ask. I will not put the Lord to the test. Now at first, you might want to give Ahaz some credit. I mean, God does say, don't test him, right? He does say that. But this isn't testing God. See, testing God is when you initiate, when you demand from God a sign so that you will believe. You are the one approaching God about this. That's not what's going on here. Who approaches who? God tells Ahaz, I want you to ask. I want you to think of anything. I want to prove to you that what I'm saying is true, that you're going to be okay and Judah's going to survive this attack. Why didn't Ahaz take God up on this offer? Well, if you would read this account in Kings and in Chronicles, you'd find out why. Ahaz had manufactured his own solution that he trusted more than God. He had approached the king of Assyria. Who was fighting Assyria? The northern kingdom of Israel, his enemies. He had sent the king of Assyria gold and silver from the temple of God, and he sent him other precious treasures from the royal palace to persuade the king of Assyria to take care of his problem for him. And the king of Assyria was more than happy to oblige. When he faced a problem, Ahaz manufactured his own solution that he trusted more rather than going to God first and then seeing what solutions God would place in front of him that he could work through. Ahaz did not trust the Lord, and he didn't even approach the Lord about his problem. So I'm pausing for a minute and then applying it to yourselves. What problems are you going through? What problems have you gone through? What problems do you know about that are coming in the very near new year? If God would come to you and he said, I want you to ask for anything, to prove to you that I'm going to get you through that, would you take him up on that? Do you know God actually does say that? In the New Testament, God says, ask and it will be given to you. We're asking according to His will. We approach God with what is on our mind and heart. He says, come to me, all you who are wearied and burdened. God invites us to go to Him with our problems, and He promises to help. In His way, yes. But He still promises to help. So why, when God really does offer you this, are you and I just like Ahaz? Why do we first jump to manufacturing our own solutions and trusting them more, rather than first going to God and then proceeding forward looking for those solutions He places in front of you? What problems are you facing? Are they financial? Work-related? Are they relational? Loneliness, anxiety? Is it school-related? Health-related? What problems are you going through? We all have them. It's not a secret, right? How have you and myself, how have we manufactured our own solutions that we trust more than God? When there's financial or work problems, instead of first going to God and asking for His help and then seeing what solutions He lays in front of you, do you jump to worrying about the budget and excessively working for that promotion or raise because money is your solution? More of it? When there's relational issues, loneliness, anxiety, instead of going to God first, do you form a relationship with your device and seek to escape the problem? And that's your manufactured solution that you trust? When there's health problems, instead of first going to the great physician, do you jump to worry and fear and then seeking out the best doctor without God? How have you and I been like Ahaz? And instead of first going to God and asking for His help and then proceeding with God, looking for solutions, how often do we manufacture our own solutions that we trust more? Verse 13. Then Isaiah said, "Hear now, you house of David. Is it not enough to try the patience of humans? Will you try the patience of my God also?" Just like Ahaz, when you and I manufacture our own solutions first, rather than going to God about it first, we test God's patience. Does God's patience last a while? Oh, yeah. But it does have a limit. We deserve for God's limit to come and Him to say, enough, I'm done with you. Like, you want to manufacture your own solution and see where that goes? Go for it. It won't last. The money, it's going to run out. The relationship will die because all people die. The doctor will eventually say there's nothing else I can do. Oh, and if you're in the market to manufacture your own solutions, if you're all about that, don't forget about your biggest problem that you need a solution for. Sin and its consequence. Death. If you and I really want to see where our earthly manufactured solutions will end up, let's extend them into eternity. Do you know where they end up? Without God? Hell. Like punishment. Eternal torture, eternal suffering. Like, that's what we try to escape with our earthly manufactured solutions, but that's actually what they end up in. And that's what you and I truly deserve. For turning to our own manufactured solutions first rather than first going to God. Verse 14. Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son and will call him Emmanuel. Instead of cutting us off completely like we deserve, God did something else. Ahaz didn't ask God for a sign. And yet God gave him one anyway. God gave him a gift that he didn't ask for. God gave him a sign to prove that this time Judah would be okay. And that sign was that a young woman, a virgin, would conceive. And then she'd give birth, and the baby boy's name would be Emmanuel, which means God with us. This was the gift that Ahaz received that he didn't ask for, but because of his unbelief, this gift was actually a punishment. It was actually judgment. Because when would this come true? After Ahaz's kingdom, the southern kingdom of Judah was no more. After the mighty warriors of Judah were all dead, the one who would come and save his kingdom was a young woman, a virgin, who would give birth to the one who would save them, a baby. God gave Ahaz a gift he didn't ask for. The promise that God would come and be with his people. But it was judgment. God gives you that same gift. A gift you and I didn't ask for, a gift you and I had no right receiving. And yet the gift he gave us was not judgment. Instead, when God gave us this gift, it was for comfort. God gave us a gift we didn't ask for. He gave us the gift to prove that our biggest problem of sin and its consequences were taken care of. And that same gift is now also God's proof that he's going to get you through whatever problems you're going through right now and into eternity. What was that gift? The gift wasn't God himself demonstrating his power by destroying or creating something like he so often did. The gift was that God himself would place himself into the womb of a woman. And then that gift, that sign, turned into God himself choosing to live a life among sinners in a broken and fallen world. And then that sign turned into God himself choosing to suffer and die, to suffer death on the cross and the punishment of hell. Your death, your punishment. And then that sign turned into an empty grave, an empty tomb, to prove that your biggest problem of sin has indeed been taken care of. Which means you're saved and loved by God, which means that broken relationship with God has been completely fixed. And by faith in Jesus, by believing in him, you won't be destroyed like Ahaz was. Instead, you'll be in heaven with him forever. That's his goal. And the proof that he's going to get you to heaven is a manger, a cross, and an empty tomb. Which means if that's his goal and those are his signs, his gift you're going to get through those problems you face now. Because God, Emmanuel, God with us, is with you right now. So when you think about those problems that you face right now, that you have faced, or that you will face in the coming new year, it doesn't make it easy. But it does make it a little easier knowing that the Almighty God is with you. So when you encounter the financial, the work problems, knowing that God is with you and providing for you makes it a little easier to look at the budget or the job and know that God is going to provide just like He always has. When you look at the relationship, when you feel lonely, when you're going through anxiety, it doesn't make it easy, but it makes it a little easier knowing you're not going through that alone. When you're facing medical problems, when you have to take the medication, go to therapy, go to the surgery, it doesn't make it easy, but it makes it a little easier knowing that the great physician of body, mind, and soul is right there with you. It doesn't make it easy, but it makes it a little easier to go through the problems, knowing that Emmanuel, God with us, is with you, helping you every step of the way because His ultimate goal is to get you to heaven. What problems are on your mind right now? I'm sure we could all list at least one, if not more. I pray that this Christmas, in a week from now, we'll talk about it again, but in a week from now, I pray that as you think about the gifts, as you think about giving gifts and receiving them, I pray that you see the gift you didn't ask for, but the one you always needed. Emmanuel, God with us, is always with you. Amen. Please stand.